We just have to work in concert to make sure what happens at the rail yard complements what happens at the downtown plaza and not competing interests, which if that was the case, then it would be good for anybody. I think what Westfield has done over 10 years is automatically sue everything that happened at Westfield. That's what I mean by stalling and halting development. That's what I mean by being an obstruction and not allowing either project to go forward in terms of what we'd ideally like to see happen. If Westfield said we're going to sue the rail yards and invest $120 million, and we can see that, that would be a little different scenario, but that didn't really take place. So I think whoever comes in, they'll know that the city's commitment is to make sure that both projects complement each other. So we have to look at all of our assets and determine how to create that environment.
Can I ask you, does this essentially scuttle the plans to move the theaters and food court to the 7th Street side?
You know, those plans have been, you know, on the books for quite some time and have not happened. So I think for me, I have a sense of kind of urgency, and when I think about the downtown plaza, there's been commitments and promises made that have not been implemented or actualized. So, you know, another developer or somebody who purchases the mall may or may not want to do that. So I would say at this point in time, that's probably not going to happen as it relates to Westfield doing it.
Mayor?
Yes?
Can you be a little specific on the issues that kind of brought you to the realization that you were going to have a meeting of the minds? And do you know, since you're going to start working in earnest on finding a buyer, do you have people already expressing interest?
Yeah, let me hit the latter part first. So we have not had a substantive conversation with buyers. This only happened, where's Bob? When did I go meet with Westfield? Was it last week?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so in the last 2 weeks. So this is very recent news. So, you know, we informed city staff, brought them up to speed, so we all got on the same page. So we haven't looked at any buyers or any of that yet. And again, at the beginning of the new year, 2010, is when I'll start having conversations with big developers who have the capacity to purchase a mall and develop it and help it reach the potential that I think we all think could occur there. In terms of what were the reasons, you know, when I met with Westfield in August, again, it was simple: invest or sell. You know, and they said thank you. They said, great, that's very clear, and we'll do that. And we took 3 or 4 months to work together, and a couple things that we felt that Westfield's primary commitment was focusing on the plaza only. And what we felt is we needed a commitment for someone to understand the interaction between the plaza and K Street, the plaza and J and L, so the JKL corridor, as well as going west to Old Sacramento. That was very important from our vantage point as a city, the interaction of all those. Secondly, if you look at the downtown plaza, it's an inward mall. Those malls have kind of outdated themselves, maybe. And we felt we wanted an outward-facing mall. We wanted something, again, that would interact with the surrounding area in terms of retail and create a friendly environment where you would open it up the mall, you would create an opportunity maybe where the grid would run through it. We'd want an environment where you could see blue skies. We wanted to transform it a downtown mall. And I think that's kind of our vision as a city. And then lastly, I want to be very clear. Westfield did say they were willing to invest. Now, there was one time, again, before I was mayor, they talked about investing $120 million. And that's why I threw that number out, I think, earlier. They were not willing to invest anywhere near that, and I think that's partly another issue. Down economy, certainly understand, but over 12 years, there's been a lot of kind of promises and commitments that have not been followed through on.
Speaking of promises and commitments from Westfield, you know, they've told you that they're willing to sell, but what happens if you come up with a buyer and what what the city and the buyer think is a fair price, Westfield says, no, you need to step it up a couple notches, and this is just another tactic on their part to stall or delay.
Yeah, we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. I think that, look, we made a lot of progress in 3 or 4 months, and I do feel like we have started to develop a very good working relationship. I have not been burned. They have not done anything contrary to what they've said in the 3 or 4 months. They said that they feel this is a breath of fresh air in terms of this new kind of working relationship. So I've got to take them at their word on that. You know, they're in the business to make money, and what they feel is a fair and reasonable price may not be consistent with what a buyer feels is fair and reasonable, and that's why you negotiate. And it's simple though. If Westfield is not really willing to invest at a super high level, they're not going to want to have an asset sit there and continue to have retailers leave and vacate, and your vacancy rate goes up. And a mayor in a city is saying, look, this is a new era downtown. We need you to either play or, move and step aside. I feel like they understand that message that we're sending to them, and that's why I think we've been able to reach this particular point so quickly. I mean, when you think about it, it's a very short time frame to be where we're standing today. I mean, that's very significant. That's why I said it's a breakthrough. I think the hardest part, Ben, is going to be to identify a buyer or two who is willing to invest in this downtown plaza with a vision that excites all of us. But again, we'll have to tackle that kind of in our next phase going forward.
Maybe
Do you have
last
any
question.
guarantee that they won't close them all?
Does it scare you that Westfield doesn't?
sorry, say again.
Does it scare you that Westfield doesn't want anything to do with this mall at this point? I mean, it's a big major company that deals with malls, and if they feel like this isn't going to work, why would anybody else?
Yeah, I would go back. Let's put it. I tried to say it a little earlier in context. Here's me kind of giving you my general thought on Westfield's perspective. They have assets, internationally, all over the world. And when you have a down economy, you take your resources and you probably invest those in your assets that are going to give you the biggest return or whatever it happens to be. And I feel like that's partly what they're saying. And then I feel their actions have also spoken. Over 12 years, they haven't heavily invested. So you take those two things, I think they're willing to play a role if we needed them to, but I also think they're gonna allow us to bring in a different vision, new energy, and somebody to invest. And I think as they're looking at consolidating and streamlining and marking down properties and all those things, it might be in the best interest of the buyer now. And this might be the best time to have these discussions with them. So I'm hoping that somebody else sees the opportunity and the upside here and the commitment that this city is making at this particular time in a way that they would like to be a part of it. When you look at markets around the country, you have your large markets. We're not a large market. We're kind of, tier 2 market. I hate that word tier 2 in anything, for the record, but this is a market that is very interesting to people because there's tons of opportunity here. We have nearly 500,000 people within our city limits. We got over 1 million people when you think about the county, and if you go to the bigger market area, you're talking over 2 million people. This is a huge opportunity market for somebody who can connect the dots and really wants to invest and have this asset be a priority asset for them, and that's what we're looking for. It's our most important asset. It's one of our most important assets. We want a developer whose hands it is in to say this is also a very, very high priority for us, and that to me would be the kind of breath of fresh air that would kind of propel this project, I think, to levels that we only talked about.